Welcome back to Speducation. I am your host, Brandon Reed, and it is a new week, so we have a new lesson. Although this lesson is a tie-in to a previous video. What is it? Well, let's dive into today's lesson and find out. Today's lesson, Return of the Acronyms. Now, we've talked about acronyms before, but there are two other fields where acronyms are used quite often. Do you remember what those are? If you said the military, you are correct. The military uses acronyms for efficient purposes. So when they're communicating, they can be as efficient as possible. And then also the medical field. I don't have to tell you that some of those medical terms can be really, really long, and the equipment that they use can also be really long. So instead of using those long words, they use acronyms to be more efficient. Now, the last time that we talked about acronyms, we covered a lot of acronyms, but there's still a lot more. So today we're going to talk about some of the acronyms that we didn't get to in the last video. So the first acronym that we're going to be talking about today is FBA. And you're probably wondering, I've heard that before, but what does it stand for? Well, FBA stands for Functional Behavior Assessment. And that basically is a behavioral assessment that is completed by the special education teacher. Now, the reason that we do FBAs is because if a student has a behavior that is interfering with their academic achievement, then an FBA must be done in order to identify what is causing the behavior and what are some of the triggers. The next acronym actually ties into an FBA. It's called a BIP. Now, what does BIP stand for? It stands for Behavioral Intervention Plan. And this is a plan that is created to help curb and replace those negative behaviors with positive ones. So when the FBA is completed and we identify what the behavior of concern is, then the behavior intervention plan is designed to help curb those behaviors, identify triggers and replacement behaviors that we could put in place so the student can be more academic successful. The next acronym is SDI, and this is relatively new. It has been around for about 10 years or so, but before this time, we really didn't use it. But nowadays, we actually do. It stands for Specifically Designed Instruction. And even though we never actually had a name for it, a lot of teachers were actually using that. This basically refers to instruction that is tailored for an individual student's specific needs. So if a student has let's say, a disability in reading comprehension or math, then obviously the specifically designed instruction is going to be designed to help that student close that gap and reach their goal. That's why we have it in the IEP. The next acronym is LRE. This stands for Least Restrictive Environment. Now, this isn't necessarily a specific place. This refers to the idea that special education kids should be in general education as much as possible based upon their needs. So depending on the student's needs, they may not necessarily need a whole lot of support or hardly any at all. In that case, the goal is to get them into general ed classes with no supports or minimal supports. However, depending on the student's needs, they may need additional support, such as residential, separate school, or even a self-contained classroom. Or they may just need a combination of both. So we can provide supports in the general ed class, but they may also need a resource room as well. Again, special education is not a one-size-fits-all. So the LRE is tailored to the student's specific needs. And then the last acronym that we're going to talk about today is IDEA. Now, this one you should already know because you've probably heard it before. It stands for Individuals with Disabilities Act. And this is a piece of legislation that ensures that every student with a disability is provided with an appropriate public education that is designed around the student's specific needs. Now, there are a lot of principles, and there are 6 main principles of IDEA. Those principles are outlined here for you, and each principle has a requirement that must be followed. So those are just some more acronyms in special education, and there's still plenty of others, and we will get to those in a later video. Now, if you want to check out the first video on acronyms, feel free to go to my channel and find the video. I also created a playlist for acronyms, so you should be able to find it in there as well. Now, what are we going to be learning about next week? Next week's lesson is about timelines and how they relate to special education. So, if you liked what you saw today, please click the like button. And if you want updates on future videos, feel free to click the subscribe button and ring the bell for updates on future videos. And as always, if you have questions, please feel free to post those in the comments and make sure to share this channel with others that might benefit. And until next time, class dismissed.